These are our alpha acid levels for all the varieties that we trialed. The black bars are your industry averages, and this is 2011-2012 results. So you'll notice that our alpha acids are not up where the industry standards are. There are a lot of reasons for this that we think, we're still theorizing, we'll figure this out. It's a lot hotter in May in the Yakima Valley than it is here, and so that has a lot to do with how alpha acids develop, is in mid-May to the end of May. And so maybe we're not getting as high alpha acids because it's not as hot here in May. We don't know. It could also be that we're harvesting a little bit too early before the alpha acids are fully mature. So these are things we're still figuring out. Our beta acids, on the other hand, are really hitting industry averages. And you'll see here, this is Cascade, so a lot of people are growing it. And people send me their numbers, which is great, and then I stick it on the graph. These are the industry averages, right? So 4.5 to 7% is what you get for your alphas and your betas for Cascade. And so they're kind of all over the map. So the blues are the alphas, and they're generally within industry standards, sometimes lower. Whereas your betas are generally within industry standards, but frequently higher. And so the effect that that has on the quality of your hop and what you can brew with it, we're still trying to figure out as well. Beta acids lend a lot of flavor to beer, not so much on the bitterness aspect. So it could be part of the terroir. So like hops, as a lot of you probably know, are like grapes. You grow a Bordeaux grape in the Bordeaux region of France. You don't grow it anywhere else. It's the same thing with hops. You grow a Cascade here, you grow a Cascade in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to be different. And so this could be part of the marketability of a northeastern grown hop. That, hey, look, yeah, we're not growing the same thing as you can get out in the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different. So bringing your brewers on board and making them understand that, which is part of what we're trying to do, but also something that you might have to do too. Really encourage them to smell it before they judge it based strictly on your brew values. Centennial is another one. So again, you'll see this with most of the varieties. We're below average on alpha, but we're above average on.
So this is Larry Park. He's one of the guys we kind of developed a relationship with because we needed poles. Around here, maybe it's easy to get black locust or cedar. Cedar's pretty expensive. We ended up going with spruce. And Larry actually had a tree farm, and he wanted to thin his spruce trees, and he had them on 7x7 spacing. So even though spruce isn't very resistant and we had to treat it, it's it makes a pretty good pole, and you can see these, as trees go, are quite straight. So Larry, he's like 85 years old. He cut down all of these trees himself in February and March and skidded them out with his tractor and had them in piles, and then in the spring we got this truck to come and deliver them. So this is one half of them. So when a guy shows up with a log truck, with half of your poles, you realize like you're finally in deep. That was kind of a scary moment for me. I'm like, we got to peel these, treat them, put them in the ground. I was like, it's kind of a daunting task. But we've got there so far. I say they're certified because they're tree farms, so they're SFI certified, I believe. Anyway, setting the poles. Some of these parts are the things where there's no manual, and we benefited a lot from UVM stuff. What is it, Roger Rainville. And a lot of the YouTube videos, we searched every Google image we could find to see what is a typical hop yard layout, because there isn't really a typical one. So we have one here. We have 35-foot spacing between the poles in the row and 12 foot between rows. We'd be happy to talk to you more about that, but that's what we decided on based on getting a tractor through and the weight requirements, etc. Okay, so kind of on to the next part. Has anyone got this new book that came out at the end of last year, For the Love of Hops? They start off talking about the history of hops, and for anyone who hasn't seen this book, I'd recommend you can buy it on Amazon for like 15 bucks. They start off talking about the Pacific Northwest and all these old farm families, and it starts off saying you don't meet many first-generation hop farmers. And as anyone knows, the hop industry is old. It seems like there's a few families, there's Hop Union. It's hard to tell, but it's a pretty small, tight-knit group. And the other thing about it is you don't just go up and start a hop farm, because it's a lot of upfront investment and work, and you really got to know what are you shooting for before you make the leap? And we're still not sure if we knew what we were in for, but it's a lot of work. This is the meat of the labor on our farm right here, literally. Me and Krista, and Kathleen will be, well, she was already picking last year. She's 4, and like Heather said, we'll have Marie trained hopefully by the fall to, I don't know, keep things tidy in the garage or something. But so it's a small family operation. It's literally weekend work for us. We both have full-time jobs and other things that we do. We're just trying to do hops because we like it and we want a little bit of supplemental income. So this is kind of our journey. So I want to start, usually this is the last slide, but so we've been at this 4 years, and like Heather said, we feel like we're still so novice. We know so little about pest control, even though we certainly know some things. We've learned a lot, we've read as much as we could, but there's so much to know about keeping on top of hops growth. And we're always like, once the season starts, you're just kind of, I don't know, it seems like you're just scrambling and putting out fires. It's just downy mildew to, two-spotted spider mite, etc. Anyway, I want to thank all the people that have really helped us along the way.
Our farm is located just outside of Boulder, Colorado. It's a small farm, about a little more than 6 acres. We have a little more than 1 acre in hops, which is not big by any means. But I understand there's quite a few of you that are in that category also. We're growing on a relatively low trellis, about 13 feet. Primary varieties are Cascade and Chinook. Some Centennial we planted initially. It did not do well in our particular environment, so that's being dug out this spring and putting in some, probably more Chinook. We started in 2007 with an experimental yard, planted several different varieties, about 7 different varieties, to try and find out what would do well in our area. Using that information, we planted the next year based upon that first year's performance, as well as market surveys as to what the market wanted. We also have about a 1.5 acre vegetable CSA operation, which is a working share CSA. So almost all of the members come out and contribute to whatever needs to be done at whatever day it happens to be. That's serving about 50 households. We do grow some medicinal herbs as well, sell to local herb companies. So our hops, actually some of those, probably about 1/3 of our production goes to herb companies, and the rest goes to about 6 different microbrewers in the area. This is just a quick walkthrough of some scenes from our farm. Since we have working chair members, anywhere from little kids up to us older folks participate. We also like to make it a community activity, so we have several events per year with music and good times and lots of good things to eat. This is just some of what's going on, of course. Typical farm scenes, the ho-ho-ho approach, sometimes called the Santa Claus weed control. One of our most valued members are the folks down on the right, those bees that we are, so in effect we have probably somewhere 20 or 30,000 members. Okay, now into the hops. Go ahead there. This is some pictures of the hop picker that I built last year. A hop picker, and this was a converted apple sorter originally. It was pretty much stripped down and rebuilt, reconfigured into a hop picker. I used quite a few of the design criteria from Chris Callahan in terms of belt speeds, speed of the picking bars, angles of the dribble belts, and that sort of thing to assist.
So I wanted to run through the hop moisture calculator. Rosie had done a great video on that. That's available at the UVM Ops page. What I found the past year was growers were still struggling a little bit using that. Some folks are more comfortable with math than others. And so I put together an Excel spreadsheet for doing the calculations and guiding growers through that.
Do you want the spreadsheet or you want the
You
online
can
one?
start here.
Okay.
Start here. So, do you mind running?
Sure.
So this is this is the web version, and what it asks for is an initial sample weight. So this is directly as harvested, and usually you're doing this before you do your bulk harvest. This is trying to see whether you're ready to harvest your whole crop. So you take an initial sample. This is wet, and then you dry that sample in a bag or a container until its weight stops changing. So what you're doing is evaporating all the moisture. And with those two weight measurements, you can determine what your harvest moisture currently is and what the dry matter currently is. So that will give you an indication of what moisture you're currently at. Most guidance is suggesting, I believe, 78% for harvest moisture. So if you're above that, you want to wait a little bit longer. Well, in either case, you want to wait a little bit longer, I believe. So then, so that's to determine when to harvest. And once you've harvested and your crop is in the dryer, you want some way of knowing when you've dried down to, say, 8% for finalizing the drying. So that's what step 3 through 5 allow you to do. You take another sample, a weighed sample, you put that in a bag, and you put it in the dryer with the rest of your crop. And then tell it the weight of both of those things, and then tell it what your target moisture content is. And what this does, what the calculator does, is tell you at what weight you'll be at 8% in this case. And it tells you that in the bottom there. The sample will weigh 29.5 grams with the bag. And then the other thing that's provided here is a lookup table. So let's say you missed the ideal harvest moisture, and you still want to know what you're targeting for in overall weight. You can do that here because this provides you some sort of off-design